The galaxy had seen many powerful empires rise and fall. It had seen wars that lasted centuries. It had seen planets burn and fleets vanish into history. But there was one species that almost nobody took seriously: humans. Compared to the great civilizations of the galaxy, humanity seemed small. They controlled only a few star systems. Their fleets were limited. Their influence was growing, but slowly. Most alien leaders believed humans were still too young to matter. That belief would soon become the biggest mistake in galactic history. Far from Earth, near the edge of explored space, a human colony called Helios 7 sat quietly among the stars. The colony was not large, only a few million people lived there. Most worked in the deep crystal mines beneath the planet's surface. The crystals found on Helios 7 were extremely valuable. They were used in advanced starship engines. Every major empire wanted access to them for years. Humanity protected the colony and refused to share control. That decision created many enemies. One morning, everything changed. Emergency alarms suddenly echoed across Helios 7. Workers stopped what they were doing. Families rushed toward public shelters. Military officers ran to command centers. Something had appeared in orbit at first. People thought it was a mistake. Then the sensor reports arrived, hundreds of warships. The fleet belonged to the Galactic Alliance, a powerful group made up of several alien empires. Their ships surrounded the planet from every direction. The sky above Helios 7 became filled with metal and weapons. Fear spread quickly. The governor of the colony, Marcus Hale, stood inside the command center and watched the reports arrive one after another. The situation grew worse every minute. Then a message came from the Alliance flagship. The transmission appeared on every screen. An alien admiral stared directly into the camera. His voice was calm. Helios 7 is now under Alliance control. Surrender the colony immediately. Any resistance will be met with force. The room fell silent. Everyone looked toward Governor Hale. He knew the colony could not defend itself against such a fleet. The local defense ships were too few. The ground defenses would not last long. Still, surrender was not an option. He took a deep breath and answered, "Helios 7 belongs to humanity. We will not surrender." The transmission ended. Across the fleet, weapon systems began to activate. The threat was clear. The Alliance was preparing for war. News spread across the galaxy within hours. Millions watched the situation unfold. Experts discussed the coming battle. Many believed humanity would give up before the first shot was fired. Others predicted the colony would fall within a day. Even some human citizens feared the worst. Where was Earth's fleet? Why had no reinforcements arrived? Hours turned into a full day, then another, still nothing came. The Alliance commanders became more confident. Some even began joking about how quickly the operation would end. They believed victory was already certain. Then on the third day, something unusual happened. A sensor officer aboard one of the Alliance ships noticed a signal at the edge of the system. At first, it seemed unimportant. Only one vessel had entered hyperspace nearby. One ship, nothing more. The officer reported it. The admiral laughed. One human ship could not possibly change anything. Still, standard procedure required a closer scan. Moments later, the officer checked the data again. Then again, his expression slowly changed. Something was wrong. The readings made no sense. The vessel was far larger than expected. Much larger. The admiral frowned. "What is the size of the ship?" he asked. The officer swallowed nervously. I think the scanners are malfunctioning." The admiral stepped closer. "What do you mean?" "The ship is too large." The room became quiet. More scans were ordered. Every result showed the same thing. The vessel was enormous, larger than any human warship ever recorded. As the unknown ship moved closer, reports spread through the Alliance fleet. Commanders began talking among themselves. Questions filled every communication channel. No one understood what they were seeing. Then the ship finally emerged from hyperspace, and the entire system saw it. The massive vessel appeared like a dark mountain floating among the stars. Its armored hull stretched for kilometers. Blue engine lights burned across its surface. Old battle scars covered its metal skin. It looked ancient, powerful, and terrifying. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Even the Alliance commanders stared in silence. Then the ship's identification signal activated. A name appeared on thousands of screens, HWS Titan. The reaction was immediate. Several older alien officers suddenly went pale. They knew that name, or at least they knew the stories. Ancient rumors had spoken of a secret human warship. A vessel built long ago in complete secrecy. Most people believed it was only a myth. A legend created to frighten enemies, but now it was here, real, and heading directly toward Helios 7. The giant ship continued moving forward without hesitation. No weapons fired. No threats were made, yet fear began spreading through the Alliance fleet. Then every ship in the system received a transmission. Only one sentence appeared on every screen: leave now, or face humanity's answer. The message ended, silence filled the stars. No one laughed anymore, no one spoke, and for the first time, the entire galaxy began to wonder the same thing. What exactly had humanity been hiding all these years? The message from the giant human warship spread across the system within seconds. Every commander, officer, and sensor operator read the same words: leave now, or face humanity's answer. No threats followed, no countdown appeared, no weapons fired. Yet the silence that followed felt heavier than any attack. Inside the Alliance flagship, Admiral Varric stared at the screen. He had commanded fleets for over 40 years. He had fought pirates, rebels, and rival empires. But something about this situation felt wrong, very wrong. The massive ship called Titan continued moving toward Helios 7 at a steady speed. It showed no fear, no urgency. It acted as if the hundreds of warships surrounding the planet did not exist. That confidence made many commanders nervous. "What do our scans show?" Varric asked. A sensor officer quickly checked the latest reports. "Sir, we still cannot get a complete reading of the vessel." "What do you mean you cannot?" "Large sections of the ship are hidden behind some kind of field." The Admiral frowned. That made no sense. No known technology could block scans so completely. The officer continued. "We can see the outer hull, but most internal systems remain invisible." Another officer suddenly looked up. "Sir, we found something else." The room turned toward him. "What is it?" Varric asked. "The ship is older than expected." "How old?" The officer hesitated, then answered. "At least 200 years old." The bridge fell silent. Humanity had entered the galactic stage less than a century ago. How could a secret warship exist for over 200 years? The numbers did not match, the history books did not match. Nothing matched across the fleet. Similar discussions were taking place. Confusion slowly turned into concern. Meanwhile, far away on Helios 7, Governor Marcus Hale watched the giant vessel through orbital cameras. For the first time in days, the people of the colony felt hope. The shelters were still crowded. Families still feared invasion. But now there was something else, a feeling that Earth had not abandoned them. The governor opened a secure communication channel. A few seconds later, the face of a human captain appeared. She looked calm, almost relaxed. "Governor Hale," she said. "Captain, thank God you're here." The captain smiled slightly. "Titan arrived exactly when it was supposed to." Marcus stared at her. "Exactly when it was supposed to?" Hundreds of enemy ships surrounded the colony. How could anyone be calm? Before he could ask another question, the transmission ended. The captain clearly had other priorities. Back inside the Alliance fleet, another disturbing discovery appeared. Ancient records were being searched across dozens of databases. Historians, intelligence officers, and military analysts all looked for information about Titan. Most searches found nothing, but eventually, a classified report from nearly a century ago surfaced. The document contained only a few lines. Most of the information had been erased, yet one sentence remained. It was enough to make several intelligence officers freeze. The sentence read, "If Project Titan is ever activated, all diplomatic options have already failed." That was all. No explanation, no details, just one warning. The report immediately reached Admiral Varric. He read it twice, then a third time. His confidence began to disappear. For the first time, he wondered if attacking Helios 7 had been a mistake. Suddenly, another alert appeared, "Sir. Titan is changing power output." Every officer turned toward the sensor screens. Energy levels across the giant vessel were rising. Not slowly, rapidly. Massive amounts of power flowed through the ship. Entire sections of the hull began glowing faintly. The readings shocked everyone. One officer checked his scanner 3 times. "It can't be possible." "What?" Varric demanded. "The ship is producing more energy than our entire fleet combined." The bridge became completely silent. Nobody knew how to respond. Across nearby ships, panic slowly began spreading. Some commanders requested permission to retreat. Others demanded immediate attack orders. No one agreed on what to do. For the first time since arriving at Helios 7, The Alliance looked uncertain. Then something even stranger happened. Titan finally transmitted a second message. This time it was not directed. At the fleet, it was sent to every communication network in the galaxy. Billions of people watched the broadcast. The screen showed a single human officer standing inside a dark command room. Behind him hung the flag of Earth. His voice was calm and clear. For 70 years, humanity chose peace. The officer paused. For 70 years, humanity hid its greatest weapon. Millions watched in silence. The officer continued. We hoped this day would never come. Then the screen changed. An image of Titan appeared for the first time. The entire galaxy saw the enormous vessel clearly. People stared in shock. The ship looked less like a warship and more like a moving fortress. Then the officer spoke one final sentence. The Titan does not exist to start wars. His expression hardened. It exists to end them. The transmission ended. No further explanation followed. Across the galaxy, fear spread faster than any news in history. On Helios 7, people celebrated inside the Alliance fleet. Commanders argued, and aboard Titan itself, hidden systems began waking from a long sleep. Deep inside the ancient vessel, massive machines powered on one after another. Lights filled corridors that had remained dark for decades. Something enormous was preparing to awaken, and whatever it was, it had been waiting a very long time. Across the galaxy, fear continued to spread. Every news network talked about only one thing: the Titan. People who had never cared about human history were suddenly searching for information. Governments opened old archives. Military leaders reviewed forgotten records. Historians worked day and night. Everyone wanted the same answer. What was the Titan? And why had humanity hidden it for so long? Inside the Alliance flagship, Admiral Varric sat alone in his command room. The situation was slipping out of control. Only a few days earlier, he had expected an easy victory. Now his officers were nervous. Some wanted to retreat. Others wanted to attack before Titan became fully active. The fleet was divided and uncertainty was becoming dangerous. Suddenly the door opened. An intelligence officer entered carrying a data tablet. Sir, we found something. Varric looked up immediately. What is it? A hidden archive from an old human research station. The Admiral stood. Show me. The officer activated the file. An ancient video appeared. The image quality was poor. The recording was nearly 70 years old. A human scientist stood in front of a camera. His face looked tired. Behind him were blueprints of a giant starship. The scientist began speaking. Project Titan was approved after the Black Horizon crisis. Varric frowned. He had never heard of that event. The officer beside him looked confused as well. The recording continued. At the time, humanity faced a threat unlike anything we had seen before. The scientist paused. Our colonies were disappearing. The screen changed. Images of destroyed settlements appeared. Burning stations, broken ships, empty worlds. Entire colonies had vanished. No survivors, no answers. The scientist continued. We searched for years, but we could not stop the attacks. Then another image appeared. A strange alien vessel unlike anything in the modern galaxy. Its shape looked unnatural, almost alive. The enemy was never identified, the scientist said. But humanity knew one thing. If they returned, we would not survive a second time. The recording ended. The room became silent. Varric stared at the screen. This was not the history humanity had shared with the galaxy. Entire chapters had been hidden. What happened next? He asked. The intelligence officer shook his head. The records are incomplete. Before anyone could speak again, another alert sounded across the flagship. The fleet sensors had detected new activity from Titan. Varric rushed back to the bridge. Officers were already studying the reports. Energy levels inside the giant ship had increased once again. But this time something was different. Several enormous structures were opening along Titan's hull. At first, they looked like armor plates. Then the scanners revealed the truth. Weapons, gigantic weapons. Each one larger than a destroyer-class warship. A nervous officer swallowed hard. Sir, we've never seen technology like this. The Admiral remained silent. For the first time in his career, he had no idea what he was facing. Meanwhile, aboard Titan, Captain Elena Ward walked through a massive command chamber. The room was filled with glowing displays. Crew members worked quietly. Nobody appeared nervous, nobody appeared afraid. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Elena stopped beside an older man wearing a dark uniform. He was Admiral James Carter, commander of Titan, one of the few people who knew the ship's complete history. Status report? Elena asked. The activation sequence is 70% complete, Elena nodded. Outside the massive observation window, hundreds of Alliance ships remained in orbit. Still watching, still waiting, the Admiral folded his arms. They should leave. They won't, Elena replied. Carter sighed. Then they are about to learn why Titan was built, far away. On Earth, a meeting of world leaders was taking place. The room was quiet. Every leader understood the importance of the moment. For decades, humanity had hidden the truth. Not because they wanted power, not because they wanted control, but because they feared what the galaxy would think. Titan represented humanity's darkest memories. It was created during a time when extinction seemed possible. A weapon born from fear, a reminder of a war that never officially existed. One leader finally broke the silence. Do we release the archives? The question hung in the air. Another leader shook her head. Not yet. If the Alliance retreats, the secret remains buried. Nobody argued. Everyone knew the stakes back at Helios 7. People continued watching the sky. Many had started calling Titan their guardian. Children drew pictures of the giant ship. Workers returned to their duties. Hope had replaced fear. Yet nobody knew how close they were to disaster. Because inside the Alliance fleet, not everyone wanted peace. Several commanders believed retreat would be humiliating. They wanted action. One of them was Commander Ziran, a respected military leader known for his aggressive tactics. He stared at Titan through his bridge window. Then he made a decision, a dangerous one without permission from Admiral Varex. He ordered a squadron of attack ships forward. The small fleet accelerated toward Titan, weapons charging. Alarms immediately sounded across the Alliance fleet. Officers shouted warnings. Messages flooded communication channels. But Ziran ignored them all. He believed humanity was bluffing. He believed Titan was only a giant symbol. Nothing more. As his ships moved closer, Titan remained completely still. No response, no warning, no movement. Ziran smiled. His confidence returned, see? He said, they're afraid. Then something happened. Deep inside Titan, ancient systems finally completed their activation. Lights flashed across the command deck. A calm computerized voice echoed through the ship. Primary defense systems online. Threat assessment complete. Authorization confirmed. Admiral Carter slowly looked toward the main screen. The time for waiting was over. And for the first time in 70 years, Titan was ready for war. The stars above Helios 7 looked calm, but everyone knew the peace would not last. Commander Ziran's attack squadron continued racing toward Titan. His ships moved in perfect formation, weapons fully charged, engines glowing brightly against the darkness of space across the Alliance fleet. Officers watched in disbelief. Many could not understand why Ziran was risking everything. Admiral Varex immediately opened a communication channel. Commander Ziran, stop your advance immediately. The order echoed across the bridge. But Ziran ignored it. His eyes remained fixed on the massive human warship ahead. He believed fear was controlling the Alliance. He believed Titan's reputation was stronger than its actual power, and he intended to prove it. Continue forward, he ordered. His squadron accelerated. Inside Titan, nobody panicked. Captain Elena Ward calmly watched the approaching vessels. Around her, crew members monitored hundreds of systems. Every station reported the same thing. The enemy ships were closing fast. Admiral Carter stood beside the main display. His expression never changed. They've crossed the warning line, an officer reported. Carter nodded. Open a channel. Seconds later, Ziran received a transmission. The face of Admiral Carter appeared on his screen. The old human looked calm, almost disappointed. This is your final warning, Carter said. Turn back now. Ziran laughed. His bridge crew joined him. One human ship was trying to intimidate an entire battle squadron. The idea seemed ridiculous. You expect me to fear a myth? Ziran replied. Carter remained silent for a moment. Then he answered, No, Commander. I expect you to fear reality. The transmission ended. Ziran smiled confidently. Lock weapons, he ordered. Dozens of targeting systems focused on Titan. The giant warship still did not move. Across the galaxy, billions watched the situation through live broadcasts. News networks interrupted every program. Citizens crowded around screens. Everyone sensed history was about to change. Then Zoran gave the order. Fire. A storm of energy beams exploded across space. Missiles followed seconds later. The attack lit up the darkness like a small star. The squadron unleashed everything it had. People across the galaxy held their breath. The weapon struck Titan directly. A massive flash filled every screen. For a moment, nobody could see the ship. Smoke and energy waves spread in every direction. Zoran smiled proudly. It is finished. Then the sensors updated. The smile disappeared. Titan had not moved. Titan had not fired. Titan had not even activated shields. The attack had left no visible damage, not a single mark. The bridge of Zoran's flagship became silent. Fear slowly appeared on every face. Inside Titan, one officer looked toward Admiral Carter. Permission to respond? The Admiral nodded once. Granted. The officer pressed a command. Far across Titan's enormous hull, a single weapon platform rotated, only one. Thousands of sensors across the Alliance fleet immediately detected the movement. Panic spread. The energy reading was unlike anything they had ever seen. The weapon gathered power, more and more. Until the scanners could barely measure it, Commander Zoran suddenly felt something he had not felt in years. Regret. Retreat, he shouted. But it was too late. The weapon fired. There was no explosion, no dramatic beam, only a brief pulse of blue light. The pulse crossed the distance instantly. Then something impossible happened. The attack squadron vanished. Every ship disappeared at the same moment. No wreckage remained. No debris floated through space. No escape pods appeared. The vessels were simply gone, as if they had never existed. Shock spread across every Alliance ship. Officers stared at their screens. Sensor operators checked their readings again and again. The result never changed. 23 warships had vanished completely, without a trace, across the galaxy. Billions watched in horror. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Even the news reporters were speechless. Inside the Alliance flagship, Admiral Varric slowly sat down. His hands trembled slightly. In all his years of service, he had never witnessed anything like this. One shot, one weapon, and an entire squadron no longer existed. Suddenly another message arrived from Titan. This time every ship received it. Every civilian network received it. Every government received it. Admiral Carter appeared once again. His voice remained calm. Humanity does not seek conquest. We do not seek war. But we will defend our people. He paused, his eyes hardened. Let this be the only warning. The transmission ended. Across the Alliance fleet, commanders began arguing. Some demanded immediate retreat. Others wanted reinforcements. A few still believed Titan could be overwhelmed through sheer numbers. But confidence was disappearing quickly. Meanwhile, on Helios 7, people celebrated. For the first time since the crisis began, they felt safe. Children cheered, workers returned to the mines, families emerged from shelters. The giant ship above them had become a symbol of hope. Yet aboard Titan, the mood remained serious. Captain Elena approached Admiral Carter. The Alliance won't stop here, she said. Carter nodded. I know. They've already sent distress signals. Elena looked surprised. To who? The Admiral touched a display screen. A star map appeared. Several distant regions began flashing red. The major empires. Elena stared at the map. More signals appeared every second. The situation was growing larger, much larger. Carter folded his arms. Today they lost a squadron. Tomorrow they will bring entire fleets. Outside the observation window, the surviving Alliance ships slowly pulled back, not retreating, not attacking, simply waiting, preparing, watching, and far beyond Helios 7, deep in unexplored space, dozens of powerful empires received the same message. The Titan had awakened. The ancient human warship was real. And if the reports were true, it possessed enough power to challenge entire civilizations. Within hours, military councils gathered. Emergency meetings began. Fleets started moving. The galaxy was preparing for something it had not seen in centuries, a war unlike any before, and this time, humanity would not be standing alone behind a single ship. The destruction of Commander Zaran's squadron sent shockwaves across the galaxy. For days, every news channel replayed the same footage. The giant human warship, the blue flash, and the sudden disappearance of 23 warships. No one could explain it, scientists argued. Military experts debated. Politicians demanded answers. But one fact remained clear. Humanity possessed a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Fear spread quickly, and fear often led to dangerous decisions. On the capital world of the Galactic Alliance, emergency meetings continued day and night. Leaders from dozens of star nations gathered inside a massive council chamber. The atmosphere was tense. Many believed humanity had become a threat to galactic stability. Others argued that Earth had only defended itself. The debates grew louder every hour. Finally, Supreme Chancellor Veyron stood from his seat. The room became silent. "We cannot ignore what happened at Helios 7, he said. "If humanity possesses weapons beyond our understanding, then every civilization is at risk." Several leaders nodded, others looked uncertain. One ambassador raised a question. "What if Earth truly wants peace?" The Chancellor answered immediately. "Then they should surrender Titan for inspection." The room fell quiet again. Everyone knew humanity would never agree to such a demand. And that meant only one thing. Conflict was becoming unavoidable. Far away, in dozens of star systems, fleets began mobilizing. Battleships left their docks, carrier groups assembled, supply ships formed long convoys. The largest military buildup in modern history had begun. World after world contributed ships. One empire sent destroyers, another sent cruisers, a third contributed advanced battle carriers. Within days, thousands of warships were moving toward Helios 7. The galaxy was preparing for war. Meanwhile, aboard Titan, Captain Elena Ward studied the growing reports. The holographic display showed hundreds of new fleet movements. Every update made the situation worse. "They're gathering everyone they can find," she said. Admiral Carter stood beside her. His expression remained calm. "As expected," Elena looked at him. "They outnumber us by thousands." Carter nodded. Numbers do not always decide battles. The captain knew he was right. But even she could not ignore the scale of the approaching force. The galaxy had never assembled such a massive armada. Back on Earth, humanity watched the developments closely. People filled public squares. Families gathered around screens. Citizens followed every update. Many were nervous. Many were afraid. But something else was growing as well. Pride. For generations, humanity had hidden Titan. Most citizens had never known it existed. Now they were seeing proof that Earth had protected them all along. On social networks and news broadcasts, one message appeared again and again: humanity will stand together. At Helios 7, Governor Marcus Hale continued overseeing the colony. Life was slowly returning to normal. The mines reopened, schools resumed classes, businesses welcomed customers again. But everyone understood that the peace was temporary. The next storm was coming, and it would be far larger than the first. Days later, long-range sensors detected the approaching armada. The reports arrived aboard Titan immediately. Elena stared at the numbers, then checked them again. The count continued rising. 3,000 warships, 4,000, 5,000. The total kept growing. By the end of the day, more than 7,000 enemy vessels were moving toward Helios 7. Even experienced officers became silent. No fleet of that size had gathered in centuries. The Alliance clearly intended to overwhelm humanity through sheer force. Then another alert appeared. This one came from deep inside Titan. A secure system had activated automatically. Elena and Carter quickly moved to the command center. An ancient display screen came to life. Words appeared across it. Phase 2. Authorization available. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Few people aboard Titan had ever seen that message. Elena looked toward Carter. "What is Phase 2? For several seconds, the Admiral said nothing. Then he answered quietly, "The reason Titan was built." The room became silent. Even veteran officers looked uneasy. Carter activated another display. An old recording appeared. The face of a human scientist filled the screen, the same scientist seen in the recovered archive. This time his message was complete. If you are watching this, then the galaxy has failed to choose peace. The scientist said, Project Titan was never designed to fight alone. Everyone watched carefully. The scientist continued, Titan is the key, the first part of a much larger system. Elena felt a chill run through her body. A much larger system. The scientist looked directly into the camera. If Phase 2 is activated, humanity's final defense network will awaken. The recording ended. The room exploded with questions. What network? How many ships? Where are they? No answers appeared, only silence. Even Admiral Carter looked troubled, because he knew part of the truth, but not all of it. Many details had been hidden even from him. Meanwhile, the massive coalition fleet continued approaching. Thousands of ships filled the darkness between the stars. The sight was breathtaking. Entire battle groups stretched across space. Weapons charged, fighters prepared, commanders reviewed attack plans. They believed victory was inevitable. After all, no single ship could stop an armada of that size, or so they thought. Then, 3 days before the fleet's arrival, something unexpected happened. Long-range sensors across the galaxy detected unusual signals. They came from abandoned regions of space, ancient sectors, forgotten systems, places where no one had traveled for decades. One signal became 10, 10 became 100. Soon thousands of mysterious transmissions appeared. Military analysts rushed to investigate. The results terrified them. Objects were moving, massive objects, and every one of them was heading toward Helios 7. As reports flooded into command centers across the galaxy, a frightening realization began to spread. Titan was not alone. It had never been alone, and whatever was coming out of the darkness had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. The reports arrived from every corner of the galaxy. At first, many commanders believed the sensor readings were wrong. They had to be. No one expected thousands of unknown objects to suddenly appear from forgotten regions of space, yet every scan showed the same result. Something massive was moving, and all of it was heading toward Helios 7, inside the Coalition flagship. Panic slowly replaced confidence. Admirals gathered around holographic displays. The glowing star map was filled with warning symbols. Every few minutes, new signals appeared. The number kept growing. No one understood what they were seeing. What are they? One commander asked. Another shook his head. We don't know. The answer frightened everyone. For weeks, the coalition had focused on Titan. Now it seemed the giant warship was only part of a much larger secret. Meanwhile, near Helios 7, Titan remained perfectly still. The enormous vessel floated above the colony like a silent guardian. Its engines glowed softly against the darkness. Its weapons remained inactive. To outsiders, the ship looked calm, but inside, thousands of crew members worked around the clock. Every station was active. Every system was being monitored. The time for waiting was almost over. Captain Elena Ward stood beside Admiral Carter on the command deck. Both watched the incoming reports. The coalition fleet will arrive in less than 12 hours, an officer announced. Elena nodded. What about the unknown signals? Another officer answered, They are getting closer every minute. The captain folded her arms. For the first time since Titan arrived, even she felt nervous. Whatever was approaching had been hidden for decades, perhaps even longer. Then a new alert appeared. The bridge lights briefly dimmed. A computerized voice echoed through the ship. Phase 2 authorization confirmed. The crew immediately turned toward the main display. New information flooded the screens. Coordinates appeared across dozens of star systems, hidden facilities, secret shipyards, buried stations, ancient defense platforms. Humanity had scattered them across the galaxy generations ago, waiting, watching, preparing for a threat that never came. Until now. Admiral Carter stared at the data. Even after years aboard Titan, he was shocked. There are more than I expected, he admitted. Elena looked at the numbers. Her eyes widened. Humanity had not hidden a fleet. Humanity had hidden an entire defense network. Thousands of automated warships began waking from decades of silence. Across abandoned systems, giant doors opened. Dust-covered stations came to life. Ancient engines ignited. One by one, the sleeping Guardians answered Titan's call. Back with the Coalition fleet. The situation was becoming desperate. Long-range scanners finally identified the approaching objects. The results spread through every command ship. Silence followed, because the unknown signals were not asteroids. They were not stations. They were warships. Thousands of them. Some were larger than battleships. Others carried weapons no database could identify. All bore the same symbol, the symbol of Earth. For decades, humanity had hidden its strength. Now the truth was finally visible. The Coalition commanders looked at the growing numbers in disbelief. Their advantage was disappearing. Fast. Yet despite the warnings, the Coalition leadership refused to retreat. They had assembled the largest armada in modern history. Turning back now would destroy their authority. Their pride would not allow it. So they continued forward. 12 hours later, the fleet finally entered the Helios 7 system. The sight was breathtaking. Thousands of warships filled space. Endless rows of cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and battle stations stretched across the stars. The Armada looked unstoppable. For a moment, everyone watched in silence. Then another fleet arrived, and another and another. Human vessels began emerging from hyperspace across the system. Not hundreds, thousands. The hidden defense network had arrived. Ancient ships took positions around Titan. Massive defense platforms activated. Energy readings climbed rapidly. For the first time, the Coalition understood the truth. Titan had never been Earth's ultimate weapon. Titan was Earth's signal. The key that awakened everything else. Across the galaxy, billions watched the standoff. History was unfolding before their eyes. Two enormous forces faced each other across the darkness. One side driven by fear, the other driven by survival. Then a Coalition commander made a terrible mistake. Without authorization, he fired. A single energy blast crossed the distance between the fleets. It struck one of the automated human ships. The vessel exploded. The battle had begun. Immediately, alarms erupted across both sides. Weapons charged, targeting systems activated. Thousands of warships prepared to fire. But before anyone else could act, Titan moved. For the first time since arriving at Helios 7, the giant vessel advanced. Slowly, deliberately, its massive frame crossed the battlefield. Every sensor locked onto it. Every eye followed it. Then Titan's primary systems activated completely. The energy output shocked every scanner in the system. Entire sections of space seemed to glow around the ship. The stars themselves appeared dim beside it. Captain Elena looked toward Admiral Carter. "The fleet is waiting for your order." The old admiral remained silent for several seconds. Then he spoke, his voice calm and steady. "Humanity did not come here for conquest. We came to protect our people." He looked at the enormous enemy armada. "Give them one final chance." A transmission immediately spread across every Coalition ship, across every civilian network, across the entire galaxy. The message contained only 7 words: "Leave peacefully or face humanity's answer." The same warning that had been given before, but this time it carried the weight of thousands of hidden warships. The Coalition leaders now faced a choice: retreat and preserve peace, or continue forward and risk everything. And as the seconds passed, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The final warning spread across the battlefield. Every ship received it. Every commander read the same 7 words: "Leave peacefully or face humanity's answer." For several long moments, nobody moved. The stars seemed frozen. Thousands of warships faced each other across the darkness. Weapons remained locked. Engines remained active. But no one fired. Across the galaxy, billions watched the live broadcasts. Entire worlds held their breath. The future of countless civilizations depended on what happened next. Inside the Coalition flagship, the senior commanders argued fiercely. Some demanded retreat. Others demanded war. The room was filled with fear. anger, and uncertainty. Admiral Varex listened quietly. He had spent weeks watching this crisis grow. He had seen Titan arrive. He had seen an entire squadron disappear. And now he had seen humanity reveal a hidden defense network larger than anyone imagined. The truth was impossible to ignore. This was not a battle they could win, not without paying a terrible price. Finally, Varex stood. The room became silent. He looked at the holographic display showing thousands of human ships. Then he spoke. "If we continue, millions will die." No one answered, because everyone knew he was right. The coalition had expected a frightened colony. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. After a long silence, Varex gave the order. "Signal all fleets. Prepare to withdraw." Several commanders protested immediately, but he raised his hand. The arguments stopped. This war ends now. Minutes later, the order spread through the coalition armada. One by one, ships began shutting down their weapon systems. Targeting locks disappeared. Attack formations dissolved. The massive fleet slowly started pulling back. Across the battlefield, human crews watched carefully. No one celebrated, not yet. A single mistake could still restart the war. Inside Titan, Captain Elena Ward observed the retreating armada. She released a slow breath. For the first time in days, she felt relief. Beside her, Admiral Carter remained focused. "Maintain readiness," he ordered. The crew nodded. Until the last coalition ship left the system, the danger was not over. Hours passed. The retreat continued. Thousands of vessels entered hyperspace one after another. Eventually, only the human fleets remained. The battle had ended before it truly began, but the story was far from over, because the entire galaxy wanted answers. Questions flooded every communication network. What was Titan? Why had humanity hidden its strength? What was the Black Horizon crisis? And what other secrets remained buried in Earth's history? Back on Earth, world leaders gathered once again. This time, the discussion was different. For decades, humanity had protected its secrets. Now that secrecy was becoming impossible, the galaxy had seen too much. The truth could no longer remain hidden. A historic decision was made. Humanity would release the archives. For the first time, the galaxy learned the full story. Records from 70 years earlier were opened. Ancient videos became public. Reports once classified at the highest level became available to everyone. Civilizations across the stars learned about the mysterious attacks that had nearly destroyed humanity's early colonies. They learned how fear of extinction had united Earth. They learned how Project Titan had been created, not as a weapon of conquest, but as a shield, a final defense against annihilation. The revelation changed everything. Many who had feared humanity now understood its actions. Earth had never hidden Titan to gain power. Earth had hidden Titan because it hoped it would never be needed. That truth spread quickly. In the months that followed, diplomatic relations improved. Former enemies opened negotiations. Trade routes expanded. New alliances formed. The fear that had almost started a galactic war slowly faded, yet one thing never changed: respect. For the first time, humanity was no longer viewed as a young civilization struggling to survive. It was viewed as a power capable of protecting itself and its allies. Helios 7 became a symbol throughout the galaxy. Visitors traveled there from distant worlds. Many wanted to see the colony that had changed history. Many wanted to see Titan. But the legendary warship did not remain in orbit forever. Several months after the crisis ended, preparations began for its departure. The announcement spread rapidly. Millions watched as the giant vessel prepared to leave. Governor Marcus Hale stood among the crowd gathered on the surface. Children waved flags. Families cheered. Workers paused to watch the sky. Above them, Titan slowly activated its engines. Blue light filled the heavens. The enormous ship rose higher and higher. For a moment it seemed to shine brighter than the stars themselves. Then a final transmission reached every world. Admiral Carter appeared on countless screens. His face looked older than before, but his voice remained strong. "Peace is not protected by weakness," he said. "Peace is protected by those willing to defend it." The message ended. Seconds later, Titan entered hyperspace and disappeared. The giant ship was gone, but its legacy remained. Years later, historians would still debate the events of Helios 7. Military academies would study the crisis. Political leaders would reference it in speeches. Children would grow up hearing stories about the day the galaxy nearly went to war, and about the human warship that changed everything. Most of all, people remembered one simple truth. The galaxy had spent decades underestimating humanity. It had mistaken kindness for weakness, patience for fear, silence for surrender. At Helios 7, the stars shone peacefully once again. The war had been avoided. The future remained uncertain. But one lesson would never be forgotten. The moment humanity's warship entered the system, the galaxy stopped talking, and from that day forward, it started listening.